Hello everyone, it is I, Zomman101, and in this video, I will be going over my experience with the Battlefield 2042 beta. I'll be sharing what I liked about it, and of course, what I disliked about it, and some of the concerns that I have. I do apologize for how late this video may seem in relation to when the beta ended, but I wanted to wait until I was back home in order to record the commentary for this video so that I could be in the ideal recording environment. To put it politely, a college dorm is not the best place to record any kind of voiceover work. That, and as a bonus, this gave me a couple of days to really analyze what I'm going to be saying in this video to make sure that I've worded everything right, that I'm not missing out on anything, things of the like. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First things first though, I want to point out that I have been with the Battlefield series since Battlefield 3. Although Battlefield Bad Company was my first Battlefield game that I ever played, Battlefield 3 was my first game in the series that I really sunk a good amount of time into, and is what I would consider to be my main introduction to the series. Though I have gone back and played older games like Bad Company and Bad Company 2. I have played those three games along with Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline, Battlefield 1, and a little bit of Battlefield 5. This means that I've been playing Battlefield games for an estimated 10 years or so, give or take at this point, which may be comforting or disconcerting depending on your perspective. On the comforting hand, this means that I am considered a Battlefield veteran, meaning that I have lots of experience with the series. On the disconcerting hand, some people may take this as me being a Battlefield boomer that'll automatically hate Battlefield 2042 for changing too much. And if you take a look at the Battlefield Reddit, Twitter, different YouTube videos, etc., Battlefield 2042 is a rather controversial game right now. So before I even talk about my experience with the beta, allow me to summarize my thoughts real quick. Battlefield 2042, from what I played during the beta, is a damn fun game. I can easily see myself putting months of playtime into it. Oh man, but it was a little rough around the edges, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Part of me expected this coming from a beta, but another part of me is also having a bit of Battlefield 4 launch PTSD right now. But let's get into the beta itself now. We're gonna start off with the good and then move over into the bad. The first good thing I got from the 2042 beta is that it feels like a Battlefield game. I know this may seem a little silly to say. The Battlefield game plays like a Battlefield game. Who would have thought? But it's something that I think deserves praise since there are countless examples of different video games deviating from their series' usual formula, and the game in question is worsened as a result. This doesn't play like COD. This doesn't play like any other FPS franchise. This feels and plays like Battlefield. Granted, there definitely are more codified aspects in 2042, especially regarding how the specialists work in this game, which we'll get to in the bad section, but none of these aspects made me feel like I was playing Call of Duty. I know that some have claimed that this game plays more like COD than Battlefield, but for me, that just wasn't the case during my time playing. If I had no idea what this game was, and I was told to play it, and then after a couple of hours of playing, I was asked if it was a COD game or some other game, I would say it's some other game. The second good thing I experienced is that gunfights felt great, provided the game wasn't having lag spikes during them. It did take a little bit of getting used to how 2042's gunfights worked, but that's the case with any FPS game. I was able to have consistently good gunfights. Positioning myself at the best line of sight was key, having the height advantage was super helpful, and I did not come across any overpowered weapons. Sure, there may be meta guns that seem to be popping up like the M5A3, but nothing that I would describe as seriously broken. I really hope this point doesn't age terribly when the full game releases. That being said though, I have heard the aim assist situation in 2042 was brutal for some people during the beta. For me personally, it works just fine, but I know that for some others that wasn't the case unfortunately, and as a result of the aim assist being rough, the gunfights for those people weren't terribly good, or at least not as good compared to, say, my experience. So for some people, their gunfights may not have been as good, I gotta recognize that. Good thing number 3. Vehicle combat was fun and it felt really good to do, except for the moments where there were connection issues. I'm sure you're starting to notice a little bit of a theme going on here. But theme aside, vehicle combat from what I've played felt great. Most of my time in the vehicles in the beta was with the aerial vehicles, piloting the stealth jets and the attack and scout helicopters. To the point where people could rightfully say that I was being a little little bit, kinda, maybe, sorta. Okay, no, I really was being a vehicle whore during the beta, I'll admit. I'm sorry. The immediate thing right off the bat that I noticed was that the controls for these vehicles seem to be catered towards the easier side of things so that players could more easily use them. Of course, there are going to be the expert vehicle operators versus your standard ones, but even then, normal players can have a good run with one of these vehicles once they get the controls down. Performing strafe runs in the helicopters, fighting for air superiority in the skies with a jet, all of that and more was, ooh man, it was so fun to do. I have had some incredible streaks with these vehicles, and I can say with confidence that this is another Battlefield game where if you've got a good squad of players operating a vehicle, or you're coordinating with other vehicles, they can be absolutely lethal in a round. Especially that player who sits at the back of the map with that damn AA vehicle. Look, man, okay, look. I get that you kinda maybe sorta have to stick to the back of the map because you won't do well up close in the firefight, but Good thing number 4. The plus system worked quite nicely, aside from a few glitches which we'll get to in the bad section. The plus system is what allows you to change the attachments on your weapons on the fly. It allows you to change out your scope, muzzle/barrel and underbarrel attachments, and the ammo type that you're using. All of these affect the weapon that you have in some way, shape, or form, and it allows for more flexibility in engagements. For example, going from long-range combat to short-range combat, you can change the ACOG scope to a red dot sight before making the push to that closer engagement distance. Changing the rifle you have to make it more of a marksman rifle kind of weapon, attach a scope and change the grip so that the grip is most beneficial for semi-auto fire rather than full auto. I was initially worried that this system would be more so a gimmick or become overpowered somehow, but thankfully it seems to be rather balanced very well. It's proven to be useful while not being a gimmick or overpowered. It did feel a little clunky at first using this the first few times just because I was new to it and I had to get some muscle memory down with the button presses, but I got used to it pretty quickly. I feel like I'm going to be using this system quite a bit when the full game launches, as being able to switch out my attachments for different kinds of engagements I'm willing to bet will prove to be very valuable. This, I feel, is what's going to distinguish expert players from more newbie players, as the expert players will know when the time is right to switch out their attachments and what attachments to switch to. Good thing number 5. The movement system in this beta felt really nice. There, I said it. I know a good portion of y'all did not like the movement system, but I did. It felt fluid, responsive. I personally love the sliding mechanic. I know some others don't, but to each their own. And it generally felt buttery smooth moving around. Though there are some select scenarios like mantling over stuff, that felt a little stiff, but I'm hoping that those kinds of moments get ironed out by the time the full game launches. And that'll do it for the good things that I noticed during the beta. Now it's time to move on to the bad things. Before this part of the video begins though, I want to point out that we are due for a post-beta recap where the developers will talk about what they learned from the beta. This post-beta recap is scheduled sometime next week as of this video. The general feedback they got, what improvements they'll be making for the full game according to the beta feedback, and more will all be discussed in that recap. So hopefully a lot of these points will have fixes to them listed in that beta recap. The 2 largest things that I experienced and what I'm placing as number 1 on the bad things list here were the connection and stability issues. Connection-wise, I experienced huge lag spikes on a rather frequent basis. The lag spikes were at their worst for me whenever I was in a jet. Some of the things I've seen while flying jets in the beta would put any Ace Combat protagonist or Monarch using the AOA limiter from Project Wingman to shame with some of the moves these pilots can do. The lag spikes also caused instances where, for example, a missile would still hit me even though I deployed flares, and vice versa. There have also been lag spikes on the ground, though these moments seem to occur less frequently. but I have had an instance or two where I lost gunfights thanks to those lag spikes. On the stability front, I crashed a total of 2 times while playing the beta. Other players have reported them crashing more from what I've heard. It goes without saying, but this needs to be fixed before the full game. Number 2, the big hot button topic for 2042. Are y'all ready? I am not a fan of how the specialists are implemented. The class system would work way better in this game. This is probably going to be one of the more controversial points in the video, if not the most controversial. For me, I don't like how the classes have essentially been entirely eliminated here. One of the key factors that makes Battlefield stand out are the different classes in the game that enables players to fulfill a certain role. To use Battlefield 4 as an example, you have Assault for giving out health and revives, Engineer for being the one to destroy and fix up vehicles, Support for giving out the ammo, even though lots of players don't, and Scout for spotting enemies and lasing targets for allies. With this current system that we got in 2042, most people will stick with their default loadout, whatever works for them, and only change it up in select scenarios. And the reason why I know this is because I fell victim to this playstyle during the latter half of the beta. McKay with his grapple hook, a frag grenade, and a rocket launcher. I only ever switched out the rocket launcher for select scenarios, such as changing the rocket launcher for the AA launcher when enemy helicopters were being tricky, or the repair tool when spawning in an allied transport. Coming across someone with an ammo box or a health box hardly ever happened during my playtime. There are some remnants of classes being in this game with the specialist abilities, like Falk for example, and her ability to revive anyone instead of just squadmates along with her Surette pistol, showing some remnants of the Assault class there, or Medic class if you want to use an older example like Bad Company 2, or Casper's Recon drone to spot targets, showing remnants of the Scout/Recon class. But I can't shake the feeling that this is going to incentivize more Rambo one-man army do-whatever Call of Duty-esque kind of playstyles. People squatting up and working together as a squad will still exist, but this Rambo one-man army playstyle may become more prevalent or otherwise more noticeable in the game. I know I said that for my first good point that 2042 felt like a Battlefield game, and for me it still does, it's just to a slightly lesser degree now. I can see where the developers were coming from when it comes to enabling more player freedom, but this player freedom removes a huge chunk of what distinguishes Battlefield from other FPS games. Now, everyone can, say, take on the anti-vehicle role while leaving the ammo and healing roles empty, to give an example. One of the core parts of what makes Battlefield, well, Battlefield, has been dumbed down here. A specialist with a single exclusive gadget isn't enough to distinguish them from the others. I originally thought what they were going to do was split the specialists into the 4 classes, allowing them to choose from a range of class-specific gadgets along with keeping their special one. That way, team play is more encouraged along with 2042 still being able to keep its specialists in a way that doesn't incentivize the do-whatever-you-want kind of picking and choosing that we have currently. That being said though, this is where Portal mode may be able to come in and save the day, as in that mode, classes will absolutely be returning. Even for the 2042 setting, there will be options in the logic editor to mess with specialists and classes. Although that does sound like a great fix, and it is, it sucks that as of now, the base game's multiplayer has one of the core Battlefield elements ripped away from it. Bad thing number 3. It was way more difficult than anyone would think to tell who is an enemy and who is a friendly. With everyone running around with the exact same looking skins, I had multiple instances of mistaking allies as enemies and enemies as allies. Now, this problem isn't so bad that I was just assuming anyone that I came across was an enemy, but I had these instances happen far more often than I would have liked. Combine that with the different possible weather conditions, and in certain situations, it was rather difficult to make out enemies. Again, it wasn't so bad that I became paranoid just shooting up anyone on sight, but it happened more often than one would think. When different skins become available when the full game comes out, that may help the problem a little bit, but there are only so many skins each specialist can have, let alone there being only so many a player can choose from. Battlefield 2042 joins the increasingly common trend of having specific characters who look the same on both sides of the fight, and while I personally am not too fond of this approach, so long as who is an enemy and who is a friendly is distinguished, I can live with it. But that needs some work here. According to the devs though, in the final build of the game there will be small lights on everyone to help distinguish whether they are an enemy or an ally, so long as those lights/indicators aren't too bright to discourage any stealthy or sneaky plays, but not too dim to be ineffective at solving the issue here, then that sounds like an alright fix. Number 4. The ping system in this build of the game just didn't work. The ping system is a way to communicate to those in your squad without needing direct voice chat. It enables you to ping enemies, objectives, other specific locations, etc. I do like that Ripple Effect thought about this and added this system, but it needs more polish before launch. For one, my pings were not received by others in my squad, nor did I see a ping of any kind from any of my squad mates. 2, it was a little difficult to ping exactly what I wanted. Pinging an enemy helicopter or jet, for instance, I found would often take me a couple of presses of the ping button. My character would set a point further ahead on the map or just somewhere in the sky instead of calling out the enemy chopper or jet at first. Again, I do like the ping system, and I imagine this system plus team communication will make coordinated squads very effective, but I'm putting it in the bad section here because it had zero functionality during the beta. Number 5 on the bad things list, ammo seems to be lacking. From what I played, the ammo situation in 2042 seems to be on the lighter side of things. It isn't game-breaking by any means, it's not as bad as Battlefield 5's attrition system when that was still a thing, but I did have multiple instances where I ran out of ammo on my primary weapon or rocket launcher, for example, and there was just no one with an ammo box around. There aren't even any ammo crates at capture points to restock on ammo that way. I feel like at least including capture point ammo crates would do wonders for the ammo situation, especially if everyone's going to be able to choose whatever second gadget they want. Most of the time, players aren't going to be running around with ammo boxes, let's face it. Having the capture point ammo crates would tone down the reliance on other players for ammo, and it would also serve as a mini reward for successfully capturing or defending a point. Battlefield 2042 is really pushing the PTFO message this time, so this could be a small but helpful way to push that message even more. Number 6. When you either gain or lose the sector majority on the map, there's this message that shows up at the top of the screen here. I think either sticking with just the announcer stating this message or having the message not show up in such a big, vibrant way would work way better here. It just doesn't look right to me with it being displayed like this. Number 7. While I do like the plus system, for me, I had to reset the attachments on my weapon every single time a new round began. It was a little annoying to have to enter the plus system and reattach everything from scratch all over again every single new match, but I'm not going to pretend like my problem was as large as anyone who had to reattach the attachments on a per life basis. If you had to suffer through attaching your weapon attachments on a per life basis, I am so sorry for the amount of hell that you went through. Oh god. Number 8. Speaking of the attachments, you couldn't change them from the spawn selection screen for some reason. You had to be on the field in order to change out the attachments. Why this was the case, I've got no clue. I would much rather prefer being able to also change my attachments from the spawn screen as well as a sort of quality of life addition. According to the devs though, thankfully in the final game that will be possible, so that's good. Number 9. Grenade danger indicators. Hello? Hello? They just weren't in the beta for some reason? I'm confident this is something that they'll include in the full game, but I just found it odd that they were absent in this build of the beta either way. Number 10. Going to revive an ally I found was a little bit trickier than it needed to be, mostly because the button input for reviving is also the same button input for picking up someone else's kit. So I was constantly picking up my ally's kit instead of reviving them, and I had to sort of position myself and juggle around in order to get to the position where the game recognized that I wanted to revive my teammate instead of pick up their gear. I would recommend not spawning that ally's gear until they've gone to the spawn selection screen. That way, that'll clear up any revive mishaps. And the last thing on the bad things list, number 11. This build of the beta is 2 to 3 months old. I don't blame you all if a lot of you just did a double take here. Why is it bad that this build of the beta is 2 to 3 months old? This means the full game will be way more polished by the time it releases then, right? Well, why would they use a build that's months old? Keep in mind, betas aren't just for the sake of playtesting, they're also used for marketing, especially towards people who don't play Battlefield that much or at all. I'm no game developer, but I would imagine it doesn't take weeks upon weeks to export a build of a game. Not from a AAA development company anyway. So why would they purposely put out a worse version of their product? If they had exported the newest version real fast before the beta started, I'm willing to bet it would have at least ran better. The core gameplay choices like specialists and such would still get the same opinions and discussions we're seeing now, but at least things like crashes and lag spikes wouldn't have been as frequent, and seemingly basic missing features may have been in that build. Another thing to keep in mind, we've been lied to about the progress of Battlefield games before. Back when Battlefield 4 released in its broken Field 4 state, a class action lawsuit was filed against EA by investors on the claims that they lied about the progress of the game to investors who purchased EA stock. Is this whole thing just a lie to keep the community as pleased as they can be so that pre-orders are retained? I would certainly hope not. On the off chance that this is the case, I would imagine this would be EA's doing in some way, shape, or form by telling the Ripple Effect employees that they have to lie. Keep in mind, EA as the publisher has control over Ripple Effect, the developer. Regardless of whether this conspiracy theory turns out to be true or not, Battlefield 2042 was worsened by its connection instability issues during the beta, and is at least partially the reason why some people may have canceled their pre-orders or have refrained from pre-ordering in the first place. And that'll do it for my list of the bad things I experienced in the beta, which brings us to the end of the video. I know I didn't cover every single good or bad detail in this video. I probably missed a good detail or two there because 5 good things compared to 11 bad things. I don't know. On the one hand, the beta was pretty buggy, so it makes sense why I would have more bad things than good, but at the same time, I feel like I may have missed 1 or 2 more good things. I don't know. If I missed any though, good or bad, feel free to let me know in the comments. Once again, I would like to emphasize this again, there will be a post-beta feedback blog post sometime next week, so hopefully a lot of the things in the bad section of this video age like milk by the time the full game releases. In any case, that'll do it for this video, everyone. What are your thoughts regarding the Battlefield 2042 beta? Did you enjoy the beta despite the flaws that were in it like I did? Were the flaws too much for you? Are you still planning on getting the full game? Did you cancel your pre-order over the beta? Let me know in the comments. Let's get a little discussion going on. And the big thing that I'd like to know in the comments, what was your experience overall of the beta? Because from what I've heard, things have been all over the place. For some people, it ran good. For some people, it ran bad. For some people, it ran horribly. For some other people, it ran really good. It's been all over the place. So that probably means some of the good things are bad things, and then some of the bad things may be good things on your list. I'm not too sure. Battlefield 2042 has been such a weird beta with how unpredictable it's been for a lot of people. So let's get a little discussion going on in the comments for sure. I'd like to know what your overall thoughts about the beta were, what your overall experiences were too. With that being said, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you like the video and like the sound of videos talking about all things video games, be sure to click that big red subscribe button with notifications on so that you can catch more videos like these from me in the future. Until next time, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and peace out.